So this episode of The Shed, we're going to talk about the bobber, the Suzuki Intruder bobber I'm working on for my son. And we got a bunch of different things we're going to talk about that I've already done to the bike. We're going to do some basic sheet metal work. I'm going to show you how I form curves in the sheet metal. But the first thing I started on, I want to show you here on the gas tank. So if you look up here a little closer, originally I ground this down too far, and I think I exposed the edge of the original weld. So I had to fill it back in with some TIG weld. I don't think it came out bad. Maybe Berserker Nick have a different opinion. I'm sure I'll hear it, but I think it came out pretty good. Now I got to grind that so it's kind of flat with the rest of the tank. And then I work on doing the internal coating. Because when you work on a new tank, you got to coat the inside or else it'll wind up rusting. Original manufacturer tanks have like galvanizing in them. But if you build a tank out of sheet metal, you got to coat it or it'll rust and you get all them rust specks in it. So that's where this is for now. And then we're going to look at some other stuff on the bike. It's been a couple weeks actually since we did the intro, and I've done some work on the bike. You can kind of tell. You see I got the tail light and the plate bracket setup done. These are actually the plate lights. And I got the mufflers on, fishtails. I got the one side cover basically done. And we're going to look into that a little more in depth because I'm going to show you how I did the rounded part on the other side. I'm going to pull the seat off and I want you to see the taillight bracket. So here's the bracket I made up. I bolted to where the stock plate brackets were. Put the cat eye taillights. I got this little magic box here. I don't know what it does, but it don't run without it. I welded this on for that. We're going to bolt that there. And then here's our little side cover thing. Now this one is basically together. It's called a Zeus fastener. It's a quarter turn fastener. And I got that on there. It's got a little spring in there. I'll show you the setup when I do the other one. And the button just snaps in there and holds things tight. It's a real convenient way of doing things. And we're going to do that on the other side. I'm going to show you how I form the metal. So you can see it's formed around the tube. See how it's rounded? But I wanted to show you something with the muffler too. I want to show you the exhaust hanger setup I did. It's very much like the way I did the struts for the fender. I made up a pattern and then cut this out of 3/16. I had to put a little bend in it to get the fishtail in the right spot. And I just made up this little piece of pipe, and you can see I mitered it to the original connection. I mean, if you were talking a race car or something, you wouldn't do that, but it worked out good, and straight lines look better on a bobber. And this is just the original place where the hanger was, but I made a one-piece steel rod just to give it a little more support. And it just slips on there and bolts right in the original place. But the main thing we're going to talk about today, we're going to come over on this side and we're going to work on this side cover. First thing I did was make up a pattern. To try to get the sheet metal where I wanted it. Okay, so that's about the gap I want to fill. But when I cut it out of the sheet metal, I cut the sheet metal a little big. See, just a little big. So it gives me a little room to roll around this tube here. But the first thing we need to do is to add the Zeus tab. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to do that. So this is they sell them like this. You can adapt the Zeus button to anything, Zeus fastener. And I'm going to use my magnet here. Now the only thing is, when I tack weld with the magnet, I guess the power of the magnet pulls the weld away. So I can just barely get a little tack in. But you see the magnet will go across the 2 straight points. That's how I know it's at the right level. When that's in, this is a spring that pop rivets to the back. And then the button, it'll go through the little tab and just snap like that and hold the thing in place. So let me tack that tab in before we start forming the sheet metal. All right, so I marked this a little bit here. This is what happens. You got to make something big and then you got to trim it, because you never 100% know. So this is 20 gauge cold rolled steel, by the way, sheet metal. And I'm trimming it with some clink offsets. Now what you got to do is you got to mark it where you want to start rolling it. Now this got to start rolling pretty early and probably end about here. And then this is going to be a big roll. So we're going to go from about here to here. We're going to make that about our center point where we roll from. And we're going to go over to the workbench. Now all I'm doing here is I'm using a dolly, regular bodywork dolly in a vise and a bodywork hammer. And you just use the rounded edge and you draw a straight line between your points. And just start working the metal over that edge. See pretty quick it starts giving you a good roll, right? You see the roll? I'm going to do a little here. Don't get greedy, just do a little at a time. I'm rolling it down the roll and then hammering the other side of the roll. See, and then you're starting to get a roll there, right? Can you see that? So let's try this back on and see we're going the right direction. See, now you can tell we're nowhere near ready, but look, you could tell it's going the right direction. Up here actually is not even bad. I'm going to go a little farther. Back here, if I keep rolling this, it'll eventually wind up about like that one. So I'm going to keep working it. I'm not going to do the whole thing on camera because this is probably going to take me an hour to get the thing really right and then do the Zeus button and all that. But I wanted to show you what was going on with the bike. And if you follow me on Instagram, if you look up CZ Race Cars, you can follow me on Instagram. And I usually put pictures of it as we go. And that's about where we're at for this little episode. So I'll catch you next time.